going to bring you in a minute. We're live.
Good evening, fight fans. Matt here, got Steve with me. Or, Steve's here, fighting news. I'm here with him. However you want to look at it, it's all good. All right, we have a special guest with us today. 62-year-old Muay Thai fighter. Starting a movie recently, which you can see it's on various streaming services. Stuart Dansby. And Steve, you want to bring our guest on, and let's just get right into this because we got a lot to talk about with this man. He's inspiring.
Yes, for sure. And the name of the documentary that he produced, Taking the Fight.
Taking the Fight. Okay, without further ado, let's introduce Stuart.
Hey, Stuart.
Hi, guys.
How's it going?
How are we?
Okay, man, we're great. See, now you're in the spotlight now. You get the big box on the screen.
I can handle it.
Yeah, so listen, first off, I watched the movie, Taking the Fight. I watched the documentary last week. Man, and I was just saying to myself, I can't believe at age 62, you're still competing in Muay Thai and training and going through the whole regiment that real professional fighters go through. Tell us about it. Why are you still doing this at your age? What do you get out of it?
It's a great question. So I started training in it late in life, like 48-ish, and like anybody else, I always lifted weights. I thought I was in shape, and you think you are until you think you do cardio. And then all of a sudden you've got, some 125-pound guy standing in front of you, beating your ass, and your hands are down by your side. And you realize this guy can kill me and I can't stop him, right? And I think that's part of what captivated me when I first started. It was the most difficult thing that I'd ever done. And I was horrible, guys. Like, I was a rock'em sock'em robot. If you remember those,
Sure.
There's a quick funny story I always tell that I was training for about 6 months, and the guy that was coaching me said, okay, low kick's good, middle kick's good, throw a high kick. And I kick him mid quad. And he said, no, bro, I said a high kick. And I'm like, it was above your knee, motherfucker. That's as good as I get. That is my high kick, right? That's how bad I was. And I remember when I started training with my coaches, Manolo Lopez out of Freedom Fighters and Greg Choplin out of KO Zone, it was just miserable. Like, every session was just miserable, right? But it captivated me. The thought of standing in front of another human being who has the will, the malice, and the intent to render you unconscious. And what can you do with that moment in your life? Who are you in that moment? That just captivated me. And the beauty of the sport, the art of the sport. And it became something that I was the worst sport I'd ever done. I'd always considered myself an athlete until I did this sport. And I was absolutely horrible at it, but I had to be good at it. It was fascinating, the sport, the strategy of it. And also that moment where you get to decide, and you guys know this, the beauty of combat sports is you get to decide who you are in those most compelling moments when you can't breathe, literally, and you got some guy bearing down on you, causing you pain, and you look up at the clock and there's 2 minutes left. You get to decide who you are as a human being in that moment, right? And I think that's what kind of drove me to do it. And then there was kind of a defining moment too when I decided to fight. But does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. I can relate to that. I did this kind of stuff in my 20s, and I feel I got it out of my system to go back in at my age now. I'm 54, would be, I know I would wake up with pains the next day that I don't really need. You know, I have enough.
Yeah.
I have enough without getting into the ring. You know, or it's
Yeah.
enough just trying to stay any kind of reasonably physically fit without injuring yourself. I'm talking in the gym, just lifting weights or
Yep.
whatever, and not get injuries at
Yeah.
at this age.
And fighting gives you pains that you didn't know you had in places you didn't know existed, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, a broken rib. That's never that's never fun to say
No.
the least. Uh, and especially with Muay Thai, getting kicked in the legs. You
Yeah.
know, at 62, the legs are the first to go. They say you don't have the strength in your legs that a 20-year-old has.
You know,
You know,
that part I would disagree with. I think for me, the challenge has been I have a right knee that literally does not have any cartilage on it. It's bone on bone. I don't have an ACL in that right knee. The last surgeon that was in there about 5 years ago said, and I quote, medically speaking, I can't explain how you can walk on it, much less train, much less fight. My left knee has a surgically repaired ACL, grade 4 arthritis. Um, but my coaches understand what we can and can't do. There's certain movements we can do and can't do, and we work around that. And you'll never know that I have those issues. If I'm losing a fight, it's because I'm losing a fight. It's not because I don't have an ACL, right? Um, and we've learned to function around them. And I don't think about them that way. I simply there's problems and there's obstacles, right? And if I walk up to you right now and I say, Matt, we got a problem. Like, how do you react internally when I say that? You're like, oh, crap. Like your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up. But if I walk up to you and I say, Steve, we have a challenge and I have an idea how we can overcome it. Where's your mindset go? And that's how we look at everything, my coaches and myself. Everything is a challenge, nothing more. We don't have problems. We don't have obstacles. It's simply a challenge, right? And certainly I don't have the speed. That's probably the thing that shocked me the most, Matt, is, in your mind, you're still this 18-year-old athlete. And I was
yeah,
quick as a young athlete, right? So I would go and I'd be like, damn, I don't have that speed. But the power is there. My low kick is actually my best kick. And probably part of that was lifting weights my whole life. But the big challenge there was how do you channel that slow switch to fast twitch muscle and vice versa? And how do you get that as functional muscle now? Because it's not about how much you can squat or leg press. It's about how high you can get that high kick and how much you can turn that hip over on that low kick.
Yeah.
So I haven't lost, and my sparring partners will tell you what I am good at and what I'm not. But the thing that I do still have to this day is I still have the power. So that's been a blessing. As long as I can stay technical, the power's there. Because as we know, speed and power all come from technique, right? The speed isn't there, but you got to have good defense and you got to be out thinking your opponent because you don't have the speed.
right. Well, they say the power's the last to go.
Yeah, and that's where for me
Yeah,
the legs of, listen, my switch kick on my right knee that doesn't have an ACL doesn't have a lot of power, right? You can imagine because you can't twist
yeah,
it. But there's ways around it that I can still throw a great when I'm having a good day, I can still throw an effective left kick by just using the rest of my body. And that's what you learn to work around, like everything in life, man. We all have a fight. We all have challenges. We all have things that hold us back from kind of what our dreams are. And if we start approaching those things as challenges and start focusing on how we can overcome them, then we will.
right. So now, in the movie, you took the first fight at age 56, correct?
Yeah, that was my first fight in a ring, but go
Right.
ahead.
Okay, so you fought a guy. He looked at least a head taller than you, and he was in his 20s, right?
Yeah, he was 26. I remember when it came across from the promoter said, this is the guy you're going to fight. And actually Stevie DeVito, his sister hit me up on Facebook and said, hey, I made this promotion for you guys. And I'm like, damn, he's young. Right. And when I would see the pictures of him and I together, I'm like, yikes, I guess you don't have to say how old I am. But
Yeah.
I took my first fight on a mat in a tournament a year before at 55. And I got all the way to the finals. I was blessed to win that night and got to the finals, and I lost in the finals. This kid was 20 years old. And the moment the fight was over, he literally turned, he spun around, he looked, it was a nasty fight, and he was talking trash, and all of a sudden he spun around, he looks at me and he says, "How old are you?" And I said, 55. And he's like, "No fucking way, no way." And as they held his hand up to be the winner, he literally grabs my hand, and I picture this, and he's crying. He's literally shedding tears, and he's like, "This is your champion. This is," and he screams at the crowd, "This is your fucking champion right here." And after that fight, and actually, let me back up a little bit. In that first training camp, people were coming up to me and saying, "You're inspiring me." And I'm literally looking at him. I'm saying, "What? I'm trying to knock a motherfucker out and not get knocked out. What are you talking about?" I didn't get it. And it kept happening. And people saying, "You're inspiring me to get in shape. You're inspiring me to do this." And after that fight, after he held my hand up, grown men were coming out of the stands and they were hugging me and holding me, telling me crazy stuff. And as I'm walking off the mat, I just said to myself, God blessed me with a journey I shouldn't have. But this is inspiring people. So if that's the case, own it and pay it forward. And how are you going to do that? And I'd done some work on a TV show my wife and I had about 7 or 8 years before with a company called Roar Post. And the owner's a guy named Carlos Arieta. And he always said, "If you want to do another project, let me know." So I went and I talked to Carlos and I said, "Dude, I think we have something here. I think I know I want to help change people's lives. I want to affect them positively. And from what I can tell, this story is doing that." And I poured my heart out to him for a couple of hours. And he looks at me and he says, "You know what? This isn't a fighting story." And I was like, "What do you mean it's not a fighting story?" And he says, "Man, it's a story of love." And that was the epiphany we both had. I'm like, "You're right. It's the love of a dream. It's the love of a sport. It's the love of my teammates that literally kick my ass with love and scream at me after they drop me and say, 'Get back up and finish the round.' It's the love of my wife who's always in my corner." And so we set out 9 years ago to bring this story to life. And it opens with my first fight in a ring against a 26-year-old, 6'2". I think he was an octopus. That's what it felt like I was fighting that night. Human. I think it was an actually octopus with 8 limbs coming at me.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely looked like he got the better of you in that fight. And I was thinking to myself, because I know there wasn't just going to be one fight in the movie, but then you waited a couple of years for your second fight. Tell us about that. What was going through your mind to say, "Okay, I did this once. I proved to myself I can do it," but then you wanted to do it again. So how'd
Yeah,
that come about?
I think it, that first fight you said, and Stevie went on to become the Florida ISKA state champion in Muay Thai. So he was a formidable opponent. And as you saw, I mean, I took a standing 8 count in that first round. I could have easily been counted out, and I wouldn't have an argument. Right? Didn't know where I was going into the second. To me, the moral victory was I was able to come back, and the judges gave me the third round. And that kind of lit something in me. I'm like, you went through the fire, you went through hell, and you had a moral victory, and that you came back, but you didn't win. And so it was still there. That burning desire was still there. And somebody called me out on social media and said, "Hey," and respectfully, "Hey, I would love to fight you." And I just said, "You know what? Let's do it." And we never planned on it becoming what it was. We never planned on it becoming a title fight. We never planned on, I wasn't looking to continue to film the documentary. The promoter for 305 Fights, um, Shen, actually is the one who said it to me when he was interviewing me. And he said, "Yeah, Stuart's going to be filming his documentary here." And I kind of, get one of those looks like, "I am?" I didn't say it, but in my head, I'm like, "I am." And then I'm like, "Pay attention. God's sending you a message. Pay attention. Like this, there's something here." Right. And so it all just unfolded beautifully for that next fight. You saw the documentary, the challenges with the state of Florida Boxing Commission that were unprecedented, that I had never anticipated. That became, and this is the life lesson, right? We don't know where our challenges are going to come from when we pursue our dreams. We have no clue. We think we do, right? I think my challenge is going to be my opponent. This fight was actually the only easy fight I've ever had, right? My challenges came from the state of Florida for 10 weeks, trying to do everything they could not to license me, right? And I was getting frustrated because first off, they gave me a physical prior to the fight that I've never had to take that was 3 pages long, a specific test, turned that in, a couple of weeks go by, no license. Then they come back to the promotion. They said, okay, we want proof of your previous fights. Where did you fight? What promotions? And then we want proof of your opponent's fights. And I'm like, this is crazy, but I provide it, right? And then they come back again, 2 weeks go by. We want sparring video. And I'm like, this is unprecedented. Nobody's ever asked for sparring video. But I give them what they want. A couple weeks go by, and I'm getting super frustrated. And my wife pulls me aside and she says, listen, if I'm the state of Florida Boxing Commission and I see a 62-year-old fighting a 32-year-old on paper, I'm getting as far away from you as humanly possible. She's like, you're a liability. You might die in that cage. That's what they're thinking. They don't know you. They don't know how hard you train. They don't know that you spar with guys like Yoel Romero and Greg Choplin, a 3-time WBC world champion. They don't know the monsters you go against. They don't know how committed you are. They don't understand that. And you've got to beat them. Whatever they put in front of you, you've got to beat them at your own game. And guys, I got to tell you, at that point, I was a victim. I was thinking, okay, this is ageism. I have a problem. This is an obstacle. And my wife's the one who smacked me and went, no, this is a challenge. They want you to prove that you are a fighter. Can you fight them? And that's what I needed, right? And so we did, right? And then the last challenge was, I remember it was a Friday afternoon. I get a call from the promotion and they said, now they want an EKG stress test and a bleed out test. And I'm weighing in, this is Friday. I'm weighing in the following Friday. And I'm like, how long do I have to do this? They said they need it by Wednesday or the fight's off. And it was super challenging because I started calling places and you can't get an EKG stress test unless you have a cardiologist. And I don't have a cardiologist because I don't have a heart problem. Right. So it was this catch-22 of the medical world. And I'm finally down Monday morning. I'm in my doctor's office, my GP. And I probably came in hot. I was like, I need an EKG stress test and I need a bleed out test, but I don't have a cardiologist. And she's like, Stuart, can you get some decaf and take a seat for a minute? Just sit down. And she comes back out a few minutes later. She goes, we share an office with a cardiologist. And they actually were able to get the test done on Wednesday. Like, again, guys, like God was looking over my shoulder for all this to come together so we could deliver a powerful message to show people how to overcome the odds, right? And we did, and we got the license Friday. That's not true. I was weighing in Saturday. We got the license Friday to weigh in Saturday. And that's when the promotion made it a title fight.
Yeah.
And that's great. But I mean, you're lucky even though Florida put you through that, other states would have said just no right off the bat, you know?
Yeah. And I gotta give those guys credit because behind the scenes at the fight, every single one of them came up to me and I had no idea. And they said, we were pulling for you all along. We met some resistance at the top. And one of them said, he's like, I'm 55. And I went to my boss and said, I just competed in the jiu-jitsu world tournament at 55. And you're trying to deny this guy because he's 7 years older than me? Like, what are you thinking? So those guys that were there, man, they were so gracious and so supportive. And you're right. That's the way to look at it, Matt. Like, they gave me the opportunity. I just had to earn it, right? And that's how I look at it with hindsight.
Yeah. I mean, other states would have said no right off. Do you ever see that Team Combat League, the boxing, where they have like a team of fighters and they each fight one round? TCL, it's called. Yeah,
Yes, I
so
have.
there's a couple of women that were over the age of 40, and they had a fight in California, and they weren't allowed to fight, and they didn't realize it until they got there. So they're like, "No, you can't fight here. You're over the age of 40, or whatever it was, maybe
Yeah,
42 or something like that."
and that's probably the state of Florida politically versus the state of California, right? That we let stuff happen here. So
Yeah,
great point, and I'm truly grateful.
yeah. So how is this now that the documentary's out? How has that changed your life? Have you gotten more recognition or more offers or anything, or how has it
You know,
changed?
that's a really good question. This has been, as I said earlier, it's been a 9-year journey, right, to bring this to fruition. And last year, June of 2023, we finished the film and we entered it into the film festival circuit. And we got into about 26 different festivals, and we somehow managed to get 32 different awards. And I don't say that because awards are important. They're not. What's important with all those film festivals, that when I went and talked to people that were watching them, and I would go to a lot of these film festivals, they would say, I'm not a fighting fan, I'm not a sports fan, but I watched this and I got the message of what I need to do to achieve my best life and how I need to get out of my comfort zone, right? So for me, it's affected me in that way because that was our goal. And every time somebody just pinged me on Instagram about an hour ago and sent me a beautiful message about, this is inspiring me. And that changes my life in a positive way because that's what we've set out to do. And every one of those to me is oxygen to keep going, to keep driving this message. Last month, I was blessed to do my first keynote speech for a corporation, and that will continue. But my goal continues to be to drive people to watch that film so that they can get that message, because I know when they do, it affects them, whether they're a fighter, whether they're an athlete, whether they're a soccer mom, whether they're a grandparent. It affects them in a positive way where they can say, either I know that message and I needed the refresher, or I understand that for my dream at any age, with any condition, I can achieve it, especially in this country, because in this country, the people and the resources you need to achieve your dream are all around you. You won't access them until you give your dream that, I want it more than I want to breathe energy. So my change has just been in continuing to drive that, Matt. Now that it's done, now that it's on the major streaming platforms, people have to watch it because that's the long-term goal. And I am, fighting is the metaphor of how we tell the story. And I'm no one special. I'm just the conduit to deliver the message. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think the message absolutely comes across the way you want it to. It's definitely an inspiring story, uh, and I enjoyed the film a lot.
Thank you so much,
Um,
brother.
you know, and if you're getting offers to do keynote speeches at corporate events, I mean, that's great. You know, that's the proof
Yeah.
is in the pudding there. You know.
Yeah, and it's taking those lessons, and in this case, how do we apply them to every day in business, right? How do we quit looking at stuff as obstacles and problems, and how do we
Right.
understand? Because most people in business are struggling with not thinking, I don't have the skill set, I don't know how to do this, but those are the challenges, right? And
Yeah.
how do we apply those same lessons? Because whatever we're trying to achieve, those lessons are applicable.
Right. So, other than the pain that you go through, what has been another big obstacle in training? Once you get to the fight, the adrenaline's carrying you through that and on. But
Yeah.
what's been the biggest obstacles, in training, just getting prepared for competition?
Well, I think like everybody, like I have a full-time career position, right? So, and it's typically not a 40-hour week position. So it's, how do you train around that and have a career? And I'm married and I have a grown son now, but how do you make sure you create balance for your life, and your family? That's always a challenge for any of us. Um, and then, you kind of said it earlier, as you get older, the bigger you're much more disciplined in what you do. So when it comes to fighting, and fighting is a sport where you train your mind not to show pain. It's the only sport where you can't take a timeout. Every other sport, you can go, hey, no, I'm hurt, timeout. You do that in fighting, you're over. It's done. The fight. That's it, right?
Yeah.
So what you train yourself for as a fighter is how to train with pain, how to train with injury, how to train when you're hurt and you just took a liver shot and you're not going to show it, right? And that works well for you as a fighter. But as an older fighter, it can be a detriment, because when you wake up, and I literally, when I say I'm bone on bone, Matt, I am bone on bone. I can come home from training and my wife, would tease me because she's like, you're literally crawling up the stairs. And I'm like, well, they're not really bending right now. I'm trying to get up the stairs. So it's mastering your ego and saying, I don't need to train 2-a-days today because 2-a-days is going to make me worse tomorrow, not better. And what I probably need to train today is 45 minutes of shadow boxing and another 45 minutes of stretching to allow my body to be fluid and to recover. And that's a hard thing to do, right? So it's kind of managing that recovery. My last fight, I didn't do 2-a-days in my training camp at all. I probably sparred twice a week. And there were days of training that were just that 45 minutes of shadow, 45 minutes of stretching. And that was part of my training camp, right? And I had to live with those things because you have to understand as an older athlete that recovery is everything. Because if you don't have recovery, then you're not going to improve. It doesn't matter how hard you're training. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. And of course, I have a degenerative disc in my neck that I have to get shot full of Botox every 3 or 4 months so that I can hit pads. Otherwise, the pain is just brutal. So it's how do you work around your shortcomings, your challenges? I have asthma, so it's making sure that there's certain things I can't really do. Like I can't really run long distance anymore. I can't go on a 3-mile run. I don't have the knees. But what I can do is I can run stadium stairs. And I did yesterday, I did 50 stadium stairs, boom, because it cushions the blow on my knees. So you figure out what you can adapt to and what you can do with the injuries that you have.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you're definitely in great shape for any age. You know what I mean?
Thank you, brother.
But so the injuries, you said you had a degenerative disc in your neck, the bad knee with no cartilage, no ACL. Do you find that during training? Are you suffering injuries during the training camp also? Pulling
Yeah, you know
muscles
that.
or
You are, you're getting you got too many kicks that landed on your leg, your quad, and you look down and you're like, all right, that's going to be 3 or 4 days if I don't get kicked again. Once in a while, you get the thing we all hate when you're in a training camp is you get a cut. I was in my last training camp and I was going against a pro MMA fighter and he had 4-ounce gloves and he just touched me, but it hit right on the seam and split me open. And I'm like,
yeah,
I wasn't worried about it wasn't the pain. It was like, crap, I can't go into a fight with that, right? They can't even see that. They don't want to see that. So you always have those injuries you're contending with because it is a contact sport. And then you couple that with strength and conditioning training that, to your point, Matt, you said it, you're trying to avoid injury there, whether you're doing deadlifts or clean and jerks or kettlebells, right? And making sure your body's functioning. So it's all a balance of nursing those injuries and then knowing what you've got to work with. So if you're going into sparring that day and your left leg took a lot of abuse from low kicks, then, are you going to fight southpaw that day and adjust to it and things like that? That'll, in the long run, make you better and continue to push you out of your comfort zone. And that's really what it is, right? Constantly pushing out of that comfort zone to find the optimal you as a human being and as a fighter.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, if you were to go back, you're an 18-year-old, a 21-year-old, you go back to your 21-year-old self. Are you pursuing, like, knowing what you know now? Are you pursuing doing a lot more competitions?
Yes, unequivocally. And you heard how long it took me to answer that because I knew
Yeah.
what you were going to ask. Yeah. There's times that I'm like, man, I discovered this so late in life. And what if you can't spend too much time on it, but it's what if I discovered this at 19, 20? Would I've gone for it professionally? And the answer is absolutely yes, because I just absolutely love the sport. That moment, like we talked about, of being, when you stare across the ring or the cage and you see that other human being that has the malice and the skill to render you unconscious. And I remember stepping into that first fight, um, and I looked across at Steven, and there was a millisecond where I went, holy shit, what am I doing here? Like, how do I get out? And the ring seemed like it was 30 feet in the air. And I was just like, I didn't show this, and it was a millisecond, but there was like, and I just went, man, this is what you've trained for. There's no place else in the world that I want to be. And that what that took was I looked over my shoulder and I saw my coaches, Manolo Lopez and Greg Choplin. And I saw my wife, and she's literally in my corner, right? And then I looked out at the fans, and they were literally, it was the weirdest thing. They were chanting my name. It's not something you expect, right?
Yeah.
And I just looked back and I looked at Steven and I'm like, you can't beat me, man. Because I have them inside me, their love, their passion, their fires in me. You can't fucking beat me, right? And I knew there was no place else in the world that I wanted to be, right? So if I was younger, for sure I would have done it. And the other thing I love about it is, and you guys know this because you're ingrained in the culture, there's a unique culture with fighters and teammates, and you earn everything you have with each other. There's a unique love. You literally, people that don't know the culture, don't understand, you can be sparring hard, going hard at each other, trying to, without killing each other, right? But going hard to the body, hard enough to the head, bam, bam, bam. And you're in an intense round and you look at each other when you're done, you're pushing, pushing. And how many times has a guy reached over, grabbed me, pulled me around, and said, I love you, brother. I love you. 5 seconds ago, we were beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
That's a unique thing. It's definitely in all sports, right? You see those athletes bond, but I think it's a deeper connection in combat sports because you're physically challenging each other, and it's more than that. You're emotionally, spiritually challenging each other. You're seeing how far you can take yourself, and you take yourself. Some days you look back and you're like, yeah, in that moment I wasn't who I wanted to be. I survived, but I wasn't really who I wanted to be. But I've got tomorrow, and when that moment comes, I want to embrace it. I want to own that moment.
Yeah. In the movie, your wife made a comment which I liked. She had said something about if you can choose your own demise, would you rather go out with a bang or in the bedroom or by a knockout punch? Um,
Yeah,
so so which is it?
clearly, clearly she's wrong. That's what I'm going to say. What she actually says is most guys would rather die having sex, like having the
Yes,
ultimate
right.
orgasm. Boom, if I got to die. But she, as you know, she says, I think Stuart would be okay if he got punched in the face. And then how he went. She's wrong. She's wrong.
So
And specifically, let me be clear, having sex with my wife. Okay. Let me be very clear. Let me not get in trouble here.
literally speaking, you'd rather go out with a bang. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, with a bang for sure. Yeah. But she's been an inspiration for me. And she is my guiding, calming force. Right before that my very first fight, she walked up to me and she said, "Hey, can I be in your corner when you fight?" And you guys are married, right?
Yeah.
Divorced.
Okay. So some of your best moments as a husband are when you don't speak, right? That's some of your best moments. And I remember her saying to me, "Yeah, can I be in your corner?" And in my head, guys, I went, I got Manolo Lopez, who's in the Florida MMA Hall of Fame. I got Greg Choplin, who's a 3-time WBC World Muay Thai champion in my corner. And you want to give me fighting advice? This is what I say in my head, right?
Yeah.
I don't say a word. I turn and I look at her, and she must have seen it on my face, right? She's like, not to tell you how to fight. I'm like, oh, because I want to be there. I
Yeah.
want to ground you. I want to be there so you can feel my energy and my love. And I want you grounded in what you're capable of, right? And that's remarkable because if you think about it, this is a question I get asked often. How did your wife let you fight? And trust me, it is not easy on her. She's had real conversations with me where she said, when you go through a training camp, I go through a training camp. When you come home and you're literally crawling up the stairs, I might make fun of you, but it kills me.
Yeah.
When you come home and you don't, your knees are so swollen, we're supposed to go to dinner and you're like, I can't even walk. It's like, I feel all of that. But the fact that she is there fearlessly makes me a better fighter. If she was sitting in the stands like, baby, don't get hurt, but like that would rattle me. The fact that she gives me that love and that faith, it actually makes me a better fighter. So when I say she's an inspiration for me, I really mean that. Like she is with me 100%. She'll be watching me spar. This will make you laugh. I'll come over the corner and she's like, that guy's killing you with his jab. Don't you know how to parry a jab? Like, why are you letting him kill you with his jab? Like, at least block it. I'm like, do you want to go? Yeah, he would kill you with his jab too, right? But I love that, right? I love that fire in her to be like, go kick his ass.
Yeah.
It's such a blessing. And she is, when I say the team, I'm referring to my wife as much as my coaches and my teammates.
Yeah, for sure. And what is it that you do in the movie? You know, we saw something about what you were doing with your team. What describe? Tell me what you actually do.
So I manage partnerships for the largest sports nutrition company in the world. And partnerships is everything from high level athletes like NFL players, professional tennis players, beach volleyball players. So I both sign those people as sponsored athletes and manage them to make sure that they have everything they need on a partnership aspect to bring that life. We have 6 different brands across the portfolio, from Optum Nutrition, BSN, Isopure. And I also manage experiential and trade shows across all 6 of those brands. So it's a pretty cool role for me because I've always been into fitness. I 100% believe in our products and what we do. And I get to work with athletes from bodybuilders to NFL players to tennis players to WNBA players. And I get to share that mentality with them. So I'm a blessed guy in that regard.
Yeah.
So what kind of supplements do you take? What's your diet and supplement regimen like?
So I do protein powder 3 to 4 days a week as a quick, easy, usually breakfast, but sometimes when I need to get some extra protein in, and I can tell those days, and that's really easy. I do creatine daily. Creatine, guys, is if you Google benefits of creatine, it is now being treated with Alzheimer's patients. It
Mm-hmm.
is an actual anti-aging supplement, and it is cognitive function. Its ability to help support cognitive function has been proven. So creatine is, I just recommend that for everybody. And obviously, as a guy who gets punched and kicked in the head, it's probably pretty important that I have brain health. And then I do some glutamine and essential amino acids, and that's pretty much it. Little bit of pre-workout on those days that I'm struggling, not for sparring, but on strength and conditioning days. That's the majority of it for me.
Yeah. But what do you think about the supplement space being unregulated? Like, why can all these companies just claim that there's this percentage of supplement in it, and there's not? Like, I mean, if we put the Florida Boxing Commission onto into the supplements, what's in there? You know what? Why don't you think it's regulated as much?
So it is regulated by the FDA. They 100% do. The challenge you have is you have all these small companies that there's online ads. Hey, you want to open a supplement company? We will outsource and make your product, slap your label on it. And those companies they're trying to get the cheapest product out there that they possibly can. So protein, for example, is like anything else. You can buy filet mignon and you can buy chuck steak, right?
Right.
So protein powder is the same thing. You can buy crap and you can buy filet mignon. We actually own our own factories, and our factories are NSF certified to not have any um, performance enhancing substance in them. So we have the highest quality control standards in the world. As the largest sports nutrition company in the world, we have to. We're a publicly traded company.
Yeah.
So if we say there's 24 grams of high quality protein in a scoop, there had better be, right? Number one, that's how we got there. And number two, that's how we have to be there. But you have these little, Stephen, these little ankle biter companies, right? Yoel Romero tested positive for peptides because he was taking this supplement from this little company that probably did $2 million a year.
Yeah.
And it turns out, if you remember that lawsuit, he won the lawsuit because they had contamination in there because they're outsourcing their products. And he won a $25 million lawsuit. The problem is the company's probably total gross revenue was 1 to 2 million.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
do the math there. But that's what it is. You have all these little, I call them ankle biter companies that pop up, and the FDA doesn't have time to get to them. And when they get big enough and they start doing bad things, that's when the FDA does come and they do shut them down. But it takes that to happen before they're going to react.
Mm.
Right. When Ryan Garcia, in his last fight, when he got busted with that Ostarine in there, um, we were talking to Derek Sanos, one of the boxing coaches here, about Yoel's lawsuit because he remembered it. And so what I did was I looked at Ryan Garcia posted a picture of his bottle of ashwagandha that he takes, and I looked up that company. That specific company it's manufactured in a place in North Carolina that manufactures for 16 different supplement companies, all in the same one lab,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. Because that's
So
what they're trying to do. Keep the cost low. And whatever chemical was on that conveyor belt on the last batch, probably still on there now.
yeah. Yeah. And then we Steve and I grew up in Long Island in the 80s and 90s when bodybuilding supplements were first, like the hot stuff and all that. We
Hot
talk about
stuff. I
that
remember
sometimes.
that.
Whatever happened to hot stuff? I don't know, but
You
it
know,
worked very well for a lot of people,
I
and then all
remember
of a
that
sudden it's
product
off the
well.
market.
Yeah, and it just disappeared. Yeah, but there was a lot of those little supplement companies there. Listen, I knew some of those guys. What they were putting in, well, you could remember Androstein, and all the baseball players taking that, Mark McGuire taking
Yeah,
that, right? And it turns out it's a steroid, right?
Right.
So there was all kinds of things going on then for sure. But today that doesn't happen. But you do have these companies that like what happened with Ryan Garcia and Yoel, that they're not clean products because they're not taking the time to be in NSF certified factories and they're not doing it the right way.
yeah,
And it's a shame because it hurts the athlete so much.
yep.
Yeah. Tell our audience those 3 steps that you said in the movie. That you can't outwork me.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's what in my head, Stephen, Matt, obviously, I don't bring more speed than anybody. I don't bring more skill than anybody, right? So in my head, when I step into that gym, I got 3 things, right? Um, you can't you can't outwork me, right? I'll work and work, and if I see you and you're going to go do another round after we're done, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go do another round. You can't outwork me, right? You can't have a stronger desire to learn every day. I'm not coming in every day just to do my work. I'm coming in every day to get better. You can't have a stronger desire to want to learn and improve. And that means you got to check your ego at the door, right? Because when coach is telling you you're doing it wrong, I don't win a lot of arguments with my coaches, fortunately. You got to listen and say, yeah, I'm fighting him because I found the easy way to do it. And it's not the right technical way to do it. So you can't have a stronger desire to learn, and you can't bring daily. You cannot bring more positive energy to me. I won't let you. I'll one up you on that every fucking day. I'm going to bring it, right? Even on my most challenging days, I have two expressions. And if you guys call me every day for the next 5 years and you say, "How are you?" You're going to hear the same thing. I'm going to say, "Perfect." You're going to say, "Dude, I can see your face. Come on. What are you telling me? It's perfect? Come on." Right? Works better on a phone call than it does on a feed. But here's my point. When I say perfect, I'm actually saying it to myself. And I'm saying, why not make today the most perfect day? Even if I'm tired, even if my knees are swollen, I didn't get a great night's sleep. I have one today. Why not make it the most perfect? And why not allow myself to push to be a little bit more perfect than I was yesterday? And the other expression I have that annoys the hell out of everybody I work with and my friends is, let's have a powerful day. And again, I'm saying it to myself because, man, it's the same thing. We got one day. Let's make it the most powerful we can today. Let's make it the most, whether we're having fun and we're just going to the beach and we're screwing, let's make it the best possible experience we can have. And that's all I got, man. You can't outwork me. You can't have a stronger desire to learn. And you can't have a more positive energy every day. And if you do those 3 things, what can stop you?
yeah. What advice would you give to a 58-year-old Mike Tyson going against a 27-year-old Jake Paul in a boxing match?
Yeah,
Which is
that's
taking
it.
place
That's
very soon.
really, interesting fight, right? Manage your energy. I think, if I'm in Jake Paul's corner, I'm going to be, listen, don't let him get you early. Stay away from him. Use your jab, your longer, keep him away from you. Get him into the third round, and then he's yours, right? That's if I'm in Jake's corner, that's what I'm
Right.
thinking. Like listen, Tyson was never known for being great in the latter rounds, even in his prime. He's not built that way,
Yeah.
both physically, and that's not his fighting game. So if I'm Mike, I'm going to say manage your energy, right? Because he's going to be looking for you in the fourth and fifth. If you can end it early, clearly do it. But other than that, don't shoot your wad and come into the fourth and fifth, because then, listen, you can crack on Jake Paul all you want. Friend of mine, Yuli Diaz, movie
Yuli.
monster. Yeah, I was talking to him. Actually, did his podcast about 6 weeks ago, and he was sparring with Jake, and he's like, he has gotten so much better, and he's serious about this, and he has real skill. So a lot of people try and crack on him, but the guy is a legitimate boxer, and he's got the skill set, and it's proven. Like he's knocked a lot of dudes out, right? He knocked out Mike Perry, for God's sake. So I would tell Mike, manage your energy. Don't try and be 22-year-old Mike Tyson, because you're not. But we've seen him. We all seen him hit pads. He's still got the power. It's
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
But you got to pick your shots.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And that's another fighter you mentioned. I saw Yuli retire. How long ago was that? Last month, Matt?
It
Yeah, a
was
couple
last
of weeks
month,
ago.
August 10th.
Yeah, we were there. The fighting news was there. Were you there? Were you there, Stuart?
No, I know because I was doing that keynote speech in Chicago,
Oh, okay.
and I was trying to get back for it, and I couldn't get back on time. That's why I know it was August 10th, because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
crap.
so
I
that
I
was
was disappointed.
some night of because me and Matt have been friends with Yuli for like seems like forever, but we've seen him box, we've seen him do MMA, we've seen him do bare knuckle, and he's a local guy, and really nice guy. We've gotten to know him very well, and shout out to Yuli Diaz. Good luck in retirement, and from fighting as well, at least.
Yeah, I loved what he said, and you're right. First off, he is the epitome of what a martial artist and a fighter should be and conduct themselves as, right? He's become a local Miami icon, and I love what
Yep.
he's doing in the community, and his son Junior, and how he's overcome cancer, and he's now got
Mhm.
that award-winning documentary. But he had a fascinating. I loved his statement. He says, "I'm going to retire from boxing before boxing retires me."
Yeah,
And I love that, man, because he went out with a great victory in his last fight. And it was just a very thoughtful way to approach it, right? Because it's tough for all of us,
yeah,
any of us, to step aside and say, okay, it's over, right? That allure is always there. But I think he's a smart guy in that capacity.
yeah. And
Yeah.
now he's working for BYB, so
Yep.
it's
Yeah, he's going to be commentating, and I joked with him because the first time he commentated, I handed him my mic from the Fighting News at an amateur MMA event. This was like in 2017, 2018, maybe. And I gave him the mic, and I said, "Do some, play-by-play analysis of this next fight," and he was doing it, and I'm like, "So, Yuli, was that the first time you ever got on the mic?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think so."
You just threw him into the fire. What are
Yeah,
friends for?
yeah. He was sitting. There was a ringside table, and I'm like, "Why don't we film this?" And he was a natural at it. He's a great talker, and I knew he was a great talker because I've interviewed him so many times before. And yeah, he was good at it. I think he's going to be great at that position with BYB, and he's working on a movie now too. So
Is he?
yeah,
yeah, he had some kind
Beautiful.
of movie
Yeah,
role. He was playing some kind of gangster in a movie or something like that. So
you could see that. He's got that look, right? But he's very thoughtful, and he has great active listening skills. I did his podcast in early August, and I'll send you this clip where he's like, so he looks at me like this. So 55, that's when you decided you would fight. 55. Like that. And I'm like, I watched it back and I'm like, you make me sound just, it's so sarcastic, but funny, right? Like, yeah, that seemed like a good idea to you, 55. So he's really thoughtful in both his questions, and he's got great listening skills. And I think that's probably why he's such a good announcer as well, play-by-play man.
Yeah. Shout out to Don't Blink podcast, Yuli, and History Makers. Shout them out,
Yep.
those
Yeah.
guys.
So what's next for you, Stuart? Do you have any more plans to? Are you going to fight again or what?
Well, after my last fight, and again, you guys are married, so you're gonna understand this. Sometimes your wives have this ability to ask you questions that you just are
I'm
dumbfounded.
divorced, for the record. Divorced.
Okay. All right.
But go ahead.
But she looks at me and she said, "Okay, I go through this with you every training camp." She's like, I feel the pain. I suffer when you suffer. It's not just you. I go through every training camp." And she said, "I'm going to ask you a question. You're 62 years old. You just won a championship. What else do you have to accomplish?" And I was silent, and she's like, "Look, they're going to send killers for you. You know that. And you know how this ends. At some point, you know how this ends. I'm not going to tell you because I know better. I'm going to ask you not to fight again. I'll never ask you to stop sparring. I'll never ask you to not be a part of the sport. But I'm going to ask you not to actually fight. You've accomplished more than anybody could have asked. What else do you want to do, right? Like, what else can you accomplish?" And I was just kind of dumbfounded. And I didn't say anything then. And she said, "Look, if you decide to fight again, I will support you, but I'm asking you not to." And I thought about it. And we had been at that point, Matt, we'd been 7 years in making the documentary. And I just said, you know what? This woman, she deserves what she just asked for. And let me take that energy of fighting and put it into the documentary, because I've been talking about this documentary. We all have those friends that are like, "Hey, I'm going to go to Hollywood and be a movie star." And you're like, "Yeah, okay, sure, buddy. Sure you are." Right. And they keep talking about it, I'd become that guy with a documentary, right? "Hey, I got a documentary." And I'm like, finish the documentary and follow the game plan that you built out, your original business plan, take it to the film festivals, get it on national streaming platforms. And so I took that fighting energy to finish the documentary, right? And I still train 6 days a week. I still usually spar Saturdays down at Freedom Fighters MMA or at KO Zone. And now I'm teaching a little bit as well. And the rest of my energy is focused on continuing to drive this message and share with people the way to change and affect their life and how to live their highest achieving life. And that will come through the documentary. It will also hopefully come through keynote speeches. So, Matt, it's continuing. It's kind of a cliche, but it's a little bit continuing to build that brand, if you will. And I'm hesitant to say that because it's not a brand. It's something I absolutely believe in and know that right now, I think more than ever, we need a message of positivity, right? Even if you look at sports documentaries, how many of them are dark? You watch the Oscar De La Hoya story, and it's raw, but it's dark, right?
Yeah.
You watch a 30 for 30 on ESPN. There's not a lot of positive documentaries. Most documentaries in general are about war and drugs and abuse. Most of them are negative. And for me, it's driving this message of positivity that I think we need more than ever right now. Of, yeah, man, you can achieve whatever you want. It starts with your perspective and it continues with your work ethic and constantly adjusting that perspective to have the right point of view to achieve what you really want and to attract the people and resources you need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great message. And again, I thought it came across very, very well in the documentary. So
Thank you
um,
so much, brother.
yeah, I wish you the best of luck with all of that. Um, and the decision not to fight, I don't know, it's probably a good one. 62, you know, you're eligible for Social Security now, right?
Listen, this is how immature I am. I'm 65 right now. I
Oh, you're
sparred at Freedom
65.
Fighters. Yeah, I sparred at Freedom Fighters Saturday and accidentally gave a guy a shiner.
Yeah.
And I was still kind of like, yeah, that's cool. I can still do it.
You should go teach a class in one of the old age homes or something, or retirement community and
You
see
know,
see how they react to it. See how
yeah,
many
right.
people sign up and say, look,
But I really love as everybody, so many people have helped me, so many people have coached me. And so I I don't have a lot of time to teach. It's usually once a week, but I love giving back, especially to a young generation of fighters. Um, and they're so respectful and they have such a desire to learn. So when I have those opportunities, I get to help a friend of mine who was fighting a previous opponent last month and help him through his training camp and give him some strategy and work with him. And those are the moments that you just cherish because, again, so many people have just been there and supported me and taught me and given me so much that you just want to pay that back and help them out.
yeah, that's great. That's great. There's a lot of satisfaction you get from teaching, also, and helping others and seeing them, grow and
Yeah.
change and learn new things.
There's a
Especially
reason you've been a
martial
teacher for
arts.
30 years. Yeah, absolutely, man, because it's life changing. And we all know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt, I was telling Stuart is that I was surprised at how many people I knew in the movie.
Oh yeah, there was.
I was like, I know that guy. I know that guy. And then Jason, the Jason trainer,
Yep. Jason Sunjay.
Sanjay. I
Yes.
see him at like almost every event, training somebody and having a
Yep.
fighter. So and I've seen him fight as well.
Yep.
You know, everyone, even at Freedom Fighters, I know the trainers over there and KO Zone. So it's all local guys that I've seen before and know. So that
Yeah.
was really
It's
cool to
cool.
me in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're all connected in this fighting culture, right? And that's the beauty of it. Everyone knows everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, you're going up against one of Jason's guys. Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a really good coach, like a really good coach. And he's to your point, Matt. He's still fighting. I think he's
Yeah.
won his last 3 or 4. I think he went to Thailand and fought. He won, I think 2 out of 3 there. But
Really.
really good coach,
Yeah.
brilliant guy, and just a class act, right? Just such a class act.
Yeah. I just saw him last weekend at Fighters Rep. Had a show in on Sample Road in Coconut Creek, and I saw him there. He had a fighter fighting. It was a great show. It was all Muay Thai, all kickboxing, and a lot of great fights.
Cool.
Yeah, it
Very
was
cool.
amateur, but they still come to fight. It's
They come there's no pace with the amateurs as a
Yeah.
rule, right?
yeah,
It's full
Well,
on.
some of these amateurs have been amateurs for 10 years and they have no desire to go pro,
yeah,
because
That's
they have other lives.
that's a very accurate statement. So they're at a pro level, a lot of them. You're right,
Yeah,
but they're not going to go pro. It's just something they love and they love to do and they love to compete.
exactly. Exactly. So, Stuart, is there anything else you want to share with our audience about you or the documentary? Um,
Thank you for that, Matt. I think just please check it out. It's on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, iTunes, and Google Play streaming. And I'm sure if you do that, it will have a positive effect on you, at least for that day, at the very least. And it might have a long lasting positive message for you that you can apply in your life. We worked really hard. We went through 7 different editors and we worked really hard to make sure that this wasn't a fighting documentary any more than Rocky is a boxing movie, right? Everybody's seen boxing. There isn't, I mean, everybody's seen Rocky. You can talk to anybody. Yes, I've seen Rocky. Are you a boxing fan? No, because the message of Rocky, again, boxing is the metaphor for the journey of life. And we worked really hard to make sure when we edited this that it would appeal to people that weren't athletes, that weren't into fighting, and that the message would come through. And that's why we went through so many different editors. So I would simply share it with everybody as just, man, check it out. I promise you it'll be 75 minutes that are worth your time. And you'll walk away with a smile and a positive message. At the very least, you might walk away with a little bit more.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So
I enjoyed it as
I
well.
I
appreciate
applaud you
that.
for that for sure.
Thank you, gents, especially coming from both you. Understanding your understanding of the fight culture and the fight world, that means a great deal to me, and I'm greatly appreciative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So check it out, people. Thank you so much, Stuart, for coming on our podcast to talk about your documentary. And we're going to encourage our listeners to watch it for sure. And also, I'd like to send you a care package from the Fighting News. Just send me an email, your size, and your address, please.
I will wear it proudly, brother. I appreciate that greatly. Thank you
much.
so much. And you know what? I just got some Taking the Fight shirts made.
Oh boy.
Nice.
And send me your address and your sizes. I don't have them yet, but you guys, I want you to have one. Each
Thank
one
you
of you.
so much.
Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, Stuart.
We'll wear it.
Oh, my pleasure, gentlemen. Us. Greatly appreciative.
Us.
So great show, Matt.
Yeah,
Right.
the movie really was, it was good. And like he was talking about the editing, I think the editing and the message really came across. That was really well done.
Yeah,
So you can see why it won all those awards.
for sure.
So what do you think, Steve? You're what, 55 now?
Yes, sir.
You should go down and spar with them.
Yeah. No, thank you. But I can relate to a part in the movie where it's like 6 o'clock in the morning. It's dark in the gym, and he's just had like a not worked out for an hour, and he sits down, and I have the same problem in my knee, which is bone to bone, and every year I have to go get shots of juice to put in. It's called Synvisc, that stuff that I use that
Yeah.
tries to put a barrier between water barrier between my bones. But when my knees hurt, I just don't go to the gym the next day. I can't. I just go through so much pain. For me, I'm just like, why am I going to do this again? So, he gets up and he starts kicking people again. I'm like, wow. So it's very inspiring for sure.
Yeah, well, that's to keep that level of flexibility up, where you can throw a decent kick. But
Yeah.
he said most of his kicks were leg kicks or whatever. But even still, I mean, um, that takes a lot. It takes flexibility, and
Yeah,
look
for
at
sure.
look at how many people's hips are going out at his age.
Yeah.
That's like the age
Hip
we start
replacement,
getting hip replacement surgeries and things like that. So
knee replacement. Yeah. All those for sure. What do
yeah,
we got coming up? We have, there's Made Men promotions at uh, the West Palm Beach. Was that the Kravitz Center? No,
yeah,
the across the street, the convention center. Made Men's promotions at the convention center, October 5th. And we also have Double Down promotions on the same day, Saturday.
right. And on ESPN this weekend, Xander is fighting. Xander's Eye is up in New York. He's on a card with Bruce Carrington, Shushu, and Michaela Meyer.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
it's
We're gonna,
another big card, another big opportunity for him.
yeah, for sure. Let's go, Xander. Yeah, so I think that's a wrap. Follow the Fighting News on all the platforms, which, in case you all forgot, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all at the Fighting News. Website, thefightingnews.com. You can read an article here and there that Matt wrote. when he has spare time. He writes ridiculously great articles. And, check us out. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much.
All that. Good night, folks.
All that. Good night.